All right, that's the stupid face for this morning. I'm guessing people on YouTube probably don't get it. But if you're on Instagram, then the first little shot of my video goes up in my story. So whatever I'm doing, that's what it looks like. Anyway, it's a fun little game we play, isn't it? Welcome to the SitRep for the 3rd of June. Wow, we're really getting through this year, aren't we? 3rd of June, 2022. I'm going to go through some stories that I have seen overnight. We're going to have a talk about them quickly this morning. I won't go too long. So what we're going to talk about this morning is stuff coming out of America. Looming price hikes on food set to hit Americans even harder this fall. So they are currently in summer, I believe. I think it's the American summer now. So in a couple of months' time, they're going to hit fall. And at that point, apparently they're going to have price hikes. The price hikes are looming right now, above and beyond what they're already feeling. So, I mean, this is just yet another story where we're seeing the increase in price of food being one of those things. There's a lot of things that I think we can kind of do away with, that if they increased in price, we're going to be okay. However, it's not really those things that are increasing in price. It's these staples that are increasing in price, which is really the problem. It's not the one-off buys. It's not the not very often bought things like electronics, TVs, MacBooks, cars, phones, things like that, things that we don't buy every day. I haven't seen too much. There has been little increases here and there. Cars has been a bit of an increase, but across the board, there hasn't been a huge increase in these sorts of products. But in the things that we have to buy in order to sustain our lives, there has been increases, and there's going to be more increases. And this is yet another story that's coming. And I'm always interested in these kinds of stories because this is really slowly starting to filter into the mainstream, very slowly. I think some of the people are starting to get it now, which, I'm not sure. People, on one hand, I'm like, people need to get this. But on the other hand, if too many people get it at the same time, people are going to do what people do, and they're going to freak out. The sheeple will freak out, and they will go and panic buy. So, interesting times that we're heading into. Food prices will increase. So, as I always say, if you have the ability and the resources now to buy a little bit extra, start stockpiling food, start having a deeper pantry, start copy canning or whatever you can, and rotating your food regularly, that you should start doing that right now. We have the time, the world, if we look at where it's trending, doesn't look like it's going to a great place, especially around this food sort of thing. And I'll get onto more food stuff in a sec, but it doesn't look like it's trending in a great way. So really, this is really something that I want to encourage people to do. Do it today. If you get anywhere near a shop today, just pop your head in and go, I'm going to buy a couple of cans of something. I'm going to buy, whatever it is, bag of rice. I don't know. But just continue doing that. That stuff is still there. It's still on the shelves. Every time I walk into the supermarket here, there's no real obvious sign of huge shortages. There are a few key things or a few small things and stuff that I'm starting to look at and go, okay, I can see what they're starting to do here. And I'm not saying there is going to be huge shortages. What I am saying is there will probably be an increase in the price of our food. So anything that we buy now, whenever we eat it, we're saving money. It's going to be cheaper. All right. I'll stick with the US for now. This is a little story coming out of the US talking about power. So another energy crisis type thing. 2/3 of the country face the prospect of blackouts this summer. So they've got a map here that you've got sort of the central line, maybe mid-east, I guess you'd call it, throughout the US, looking like they're at high risk of having severe blackouts this summer, many of, and then the entire, right from the center all the way to the West Coast, all that area of the States is at an elevated risk of having blackouts this summer. So, again, what we're looking at here is not just a developed country, but arguably the developed country in the world, the country that has been seen as the leader, and they're going to be starting to struggle to feed their people, to make food affordable for their people, and to even supply electricity to their people. This is pretty murky territory we're getting into here. I mean, there's nothing definite with this. Again, these are just interesting things that pique my interest, and I go, okay, that's problematic. And this is not coming from some news spin or anything. This is actually coming from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation, or NERC. So, I mean, it's these people's job to look at this sort of stuff. How reliable is our electricity supply? And they're basically saying that this summer, it being a hot summer, and compounding this obviously is that west side getting into terrible drought. They use a lot of hydroelectricity, so they can't generate that hydroelectricity without the water. So this is compounding it. Hot weather, meaning that people are going to be using more energy through air conditioners and stuff like that. So this is just a compounding problem that they've got. And so this Energy Reliability Corporation is looking at this and going, this is a problem. We're not going to be able to supply energy for everyone for the whole summer, like consistently over the summer. So there will be blackouts coming. So how the US handle that, that'll be another thing. Seeing the kind of fractious situation that they have there in the US at the moment anyway, I don't think this is going to help. Honestly, I don't think this is going to play out so well. That's an odd story. Why do I have that one there? All right, let's move on to Britain, the mother country. Brits face apocalyptic consequences after fastest food price rises in decade. The recent British Retail Consortium survey has revealed a worrying future for British consumers after revealing food prices are shooting up at the fastest rate in over a decade, having risen 4.5% in the year through May, up from 3.4% in April. So, obviously, the inflation there is hitting a bit of a high, or just over a decade high. I think 11-year high is what they were saying. Something there. And basic products, to include services, is already at a 40-year high of 9%. So their inflation there is obviously increasing. A big concern for a lot of people, inflation at the moment. And it is really hitting home in this food space, like I was saying at that first story. Do I need to worry about inflation on TVs or computers or new phones and stuff like that? No, not really. Like that will inflate eventually. Oddly, we're not seeing that inflation too much at the moment for a number of factors, but it's not really that much of a concern anyway if it does. We can all live without TVs. I know that's probably shocking people right now, but we can live without them. Trust me, I've done it. We cannot live without food. So that's where this is going to start pushing into. Our food is going to become more and more of a percentage, a chunk of our pay packets. And at some point, we're going to have to start giving up a whole heap of other things. It's not at that point where it's dire, but it's starting to get pretty serious, or at least showing us the direction of where it can get very serious. So this is something we need to keep our eye on. And again, I like to just point out these stories because I'm starting to lay it on really thick. If you haven't got the point yet, I know a lot of you guys who've been joining me for a little while now would be probably getting pretty sick of me saying this shit over and over again every day. But I want to reiterate the point here, and I want to make sure that you're doing it. I want to make sure that you're safe. That's essentially the role of this channel, is to try and impart some sort of inspiration and maybe some little bit of knowledge or something like that I have, so that we can better prepare ourselves for the future. It's my belief, my core belief, that if we're better prepared, if you're better prepared, then the people around you will then, by effect, be better prepared, because you're preparing, and then you can help them out too. and then you can encourage them to prepare themselves, and we can kind of like raise all the ships, as it were, and have hopefully a better prepared world. I don't have a lot of faith in preparing the whole world, but at least community-wide, I can better prepare ourselves. So start with yourself, get yourself ready, get yourself prepared. The goal, I think, for people now, I'm going to start saying this. I've never really had like, you need to be hitting these points. I've always said, hey, whatever you can do, whatever you can afford. And I still maintain that. If you've got one day of food, you know what? You're probably ahead of 70% of people. Especially if you're in high density areas like cities, I would say you're easily ahead of a lot of people by having 1 or 2 days food on hand. A lot of people are living day to day, meal to meal, by just ordering out, getting Uber Eats and doing whatever. So if you've got that built up, that's something. All right. 3 days is a good little marker to get to, though. 2 weeks, I think 2 to 3 weeks is a nice spot. And I will say, if having 3 days is a white belt, then I'm going to give you a blue belt for having 3 weeks. I'm going to give you a brown belt for having 3 months. You're not a master yet, but you're getting there. If you've got sort of 6 months towards sustainability, if you're actually generating your own food, your own energy, you've got secured your own water, then you're almost ready to take the black belt test and be a kung fu prepper master. That's where we should all be aiming for right now. If you're not an asset, you're a liability. That's all there is to it. Okay. If you're not prepared, then you are part of the horde and you're part of the problem. Don't be the sheeple. All right. Be the wolf. No, don't eat people. Be the sheepdog. Be the protector. Okay. Let's talk about more countries and their wheat problems. Yet another country has come out and said, we have a problem within our country, or we're foreseeing a huge problem feeding our own people, and we need to sort this out. So Egypt has come out and said we're banning all transactions of wheat within their country, other than government level stuff. So government level stuff, we can still deal country to country, import wheat, export wheat if we need to, if it makes sense, country to country. But all you little folk down there with your little wheat sales, not going to happen. No. We're like the state has come in and said, this wheat is now Egypt wheat. We need to feed our people. They are clearly very worried. When a country goes to these steps, unless they're a communist country, if they're going to these steps in a capitalist society, that tells us there's a fucking problem there, a huge problem. You and I know there's problems. We have been discussing this for quite some time now. All right, we see this sort of stuff happening, but when countries start coming out and doing this, I think other people will start to go like, wait, what? What's going on here? So they're basically taking a hold of, what are they looking for? Their target is 6 million tons of domestic wheat this year, after the Ukraine war has stopped a whole heap of wheat getting out into Africa and North Africa, like where Egypt is. And we've talked about this before, that the people that will get hit the hardest and the quickest from the shortage of fertilizer and from wheat and grain export out of Russia and Ukraine is Africa. And so this is what we're seeing now. I'm actually a little bit surprised that we haven't seen a absolute swathe of countries throughout Africa going, help, wheat, help us, or like shutting down and going, right, we just need to concentrate on wheat. I know a lot of not a lot, but a number of those countries have other problems that they have to deal with right now. So yeah, I mean, this is Egypt now marking to the world. This is another country now in a long list that is shutting down exports, that is really starting to look at hoarding their own stuff. So as individuals, like I was just saying, we're going to start to see individuals wake up a little bit and go like, food, fuck. And they're going to go start hitting Woolies and just like pulling stuff in. You'll see like families pushing 3 or 4 trolleys in Costco with it stacked up and just dropping like $2,000 on food. That I think will start filtering in. at some point when the fear starts to really set home, when they're like, wait, when we're all not going to die of COVID now, what else can I plug in? Oh, food problems. Okay, cool. I've still got my fear dummy to suck on. So we're going to go see this. We can best prepare ourselves individually as continuing doing what we're doing, start building up our stores and not freaking out, but just, maybe just increase a little bit more speed now and start to get it up to, not getting towards a light jog in our prepping. Just be warned that this is happening because countries are actually doing this now. I just want to read this too. Countries that need imports, like Egypt, start to take control of what remains and ration it. And that's unfortunately what we're going to start to see. And probably under digital means as well, digital rationing systems. I will put the caveat on this. Australia is relatively cushioned against this. We're not a net importer of things like wheat. We're a net exporter, so we grow enough for our people. However, historically speaking, and having a look at what our fucking government has done to us in the past, the opportunity to get everyone onto some sort of digital rationing system, I think will be too tempting for our government, and I can see us going there very quickly. So stay ahead of the curve, kids. Turkey rejects Indian wheat shipment, claiming it tested positive for rubella. Ooh. No. Yet another issue that we have with the world food system, where we're growing en masse in one area and shipping it to another area. If there's something wrong with that, then that kind of like creates a huge shortfall for these people, and they're reliant on that. So Turkey's just got a whole heap of wheat out of India. If you cast your mind back to, let's just rewind a couple of days and go, what's India going to do? That's right. India's buying up all the cheap Russian oil and all the fertilizer they can get out of Russia because they've said that they're going to plug the hole. They're going to fill in that shortfall of world wheat, and they're going to become the breadbasket of the world. And now we see a story coming out saying, hey, your wheat is actually dirty. So first and foremost, I'm like, well, this is a problem. Yet another thing where we're seeing some issue with our food supply. Second thing I look at it is go, all right, let's put my tinfoil hat on for a second and go, is it dirty? Or is this just yet another story that I've been seeing in many that says somehow, you can't be trusted growing food, you guys. It's all dirty. It's all bad. Don't you do it. What are you doing there, growing food? No. Government food is the clean food. Yeah, just sign up to our system and we'll give you your X ration per day. And that's, and it's clean. We've sterilized it. We've chlorinated it. We've filled it full of the chemicals that you need and that we want you to have. And here it is. So eat up your Soylent Green or grey or whatever it will end up being. Just on the macro though, if I just take the tinfoil hat back off, again, world food supply issue. This is yet another thing where we go, oh shit, well, what's going to happen to that wheat? All right. If they tested for rubella and they found rubella in it, they're not going to go, oh, okay, well, we'll just, we'll eat it anyway. I'm sure it'll be fine this time. They're probably going to dump it. They're probably going to burn it or just dump it on the ground and let it rot. More food, more waste. Grow your own food, kids. Let's jump over into our neck of the woods. Canada alarmed as Chinese fighter pilots buzz Canadian planes over international waters. So I just want to throw this one in. This was actually sent to me by one of my good friends and a source who is living internationally at the moment and has their finger on the pulse. Sent this to me because this is another little thing that we're seeing from the Chinese doing. They appear to be getting more and more aggressive with their actual movements now. One of the things I always like to say to you guys is don't look at what people are saying, look at what they're doing. So in the case of China, neither of those two options are good. They're saying things like reunification is coming, get back out of our neck of the woods, stick your nose out of it, USA. This is our business. We do what we do. And what are they doing though? Well, they're buzzing the tower. They're buzzing Canadian planes. They are flying sorties that are larger than they ever have flown before into Taiwanese airspace. They are securing deals throughout the South Pacific Islands, and they are building warships. They are building huge naval ships at the moment at a speed that I like is utterly frightening to me. I don't even know how to describe it. Like the speed that they can pump out a carrier at the moment is mind-blowing. They don't have naval superiority, despite what some sources I've read have actually said. They do not have naval superiority. That is still the USA, but what they do have is manufacturing superiority. And if they really ramp that machine up, we're not talking about them being navally superior in 15 years. We're talking about them being able to do it in 3 to 5. So that's the state of play with China at the moment. Again, something to watch. This is going to have pretty big effects on Australia in the not too distant future. All right, last thing I want to talk about is looks like the US is doing some deal where they're about to send over some more military tech over to Ukraine, in particular a drone which has some pretty weaponry on it that can do some pretty full-on damage, not just even in with Ukraine. It can stretch out a little bit further, if you're getting my drift, and start going on the offensive. But that in itself is kind of interesting, but this is probably more interesting. For the paltry price, the mere pittance of $30,000, you there could own a Javelin missile system. Yep. What happens, what always happens in any conflict zone, especially when weaponry is pumped in there and pumped in there for cheap, i.e., let's look at Afghanistan. When I was fighting in Afghanistan, all the locals had AK-47s, and that was a throwback from Russia being in there and pumping weapons into that area, and the CIA pumping money into it before then. And then the US put on bulk in the order of trillions of dollars worth of goods and weaponry into that country, and then just decided it was a really good idea just to fucking fuck off and leave it for a terrorist organization to take over. Tops, great idea. Anyway, a lot of shit ends up on the black market. Saw this with the fall of the Soviet Union as well. A lot of weaponry ended up on the black market. So what are we seeing with Ukraine that is getting pumped with weapons from all over the world? Black market weapons. $30,000 on the black market right now, you could buy you a US Javelin missile system. So if you're worried about tanks, maybe you could invest in one of these. That's why I was saying, like, we're also seeing some of the world's highest tech drones with some of the best weaponry on it now getting pumped into Ukraine. Sure, that won't fall into a bad guy's hands, though. For the right price, it's all there if you want it, and there are people who do want it. So that's a little concern that I want to leave you with today to think about. Weaponry flooding the black market, going out into the world. Securing the world, though, making the world a better place. Well done, West. Really thought that one through. All right, so that's it for today. I'm going to wrap it up there. Again, relatively short one, I think. Maybe I just ranted for a bit longer than I thought I would. But in some food stuff, we want to keep our eye on this. Energy costs are going to continue to rise. Start to think about how you're positioning yourself, how you are positioned financially as well. That's always something good to remind people about. Prepping isn't all about bullets and beans and building bunkers and crawling around in the bush and learning all the survival skills, starting fire with friction. It's all about actually living the life that you live now and sustaining the life that you want to live. And so part of prepping is actually financial prepping. We are moving into what looks like will be a recession. We are moving into what looks like will be an inflated period where food is going to cost more, energy is going to cost more. access to water. I don't know what that's going to do. Like I'm guessing it's going to cost more and it's going to be harder to get to. So let's start preparing ourselves so we can continue to live the life that we want to, that we can look after ourselves, look after our family, look after the people in our community as well. And hopefully see ourselves through this odd time in history. It's not the end of the world. It's only the end of the world as we know it. We're always going through cycles. We're going through a little bit of a rough patch. It might get rougher. So brace yourselves. And let's keep smiling, keep gardening. All right. So thanks heaps for joining me today. Thanks heaps for everyone who's sending through the messages and stuff. I really appreciate it. If you've got any questions, feel free to shoot them through to me. But until next time, a semper paratus.